Okay, good evening. So before we start, make sure we have the correct motivation, right? So check your motivation. Yeah, so we talked about the benefits of reliance and how to see the teacher in that aspect. If you want to go fast in the paths, to see the teacher in that aspect, you don't have to, but it's just kind of what has been explained, right? That if you want to go faster, then there's great benefit in doing so, you know. So there's two ways, right? We depend to thought. One is by generating fate, as we just discovered, or we just went over, by generating fate. And the other aspect is by remembering the kindness of the Guru, to have respect, that fate and respect are two important aspects, right? So next to generating fate, as we talked about the three types of fate, by seeing the teacher as the Buddha and being an emanation and engaging in enlightened activities, and that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are among us, and that our own perceptions are not reliable, right? So those kind of aspects, very true, especially the last one, so true. When Kandula was teaching in London, then Alexander Rinpoche was there. He's one of the greatest lamas in Nyingma tradition. If he goes to Tibet, then people treat him like the Dalai Lama, But he shows the aspect like Zapata Rinpoche also escapes fuss. So most people didn't know there was this High Lama in the audience, So then we had lunch. We went for lunch and we invited Alak Senghar Rinpoche also. And so he came. His holy body is not too tall. And then as soon as Kandula saw, straight on the floor, full-length prostration. And then Senghar Rinpoche disappeared. He's just, I don't know how fast. He normally walks, he's quite old, walks with his stick. But before you know it, he was on the other side of the building. Because he doesn't like the fuss. But then you can see, for many people, they didn't really recognize there was this High Lama there, It's, very amazing. And then luckily, Kandla requested transmission during lunch, and then he gave a few texts. So, you can see often our own perception is not really, and of course, and then you see a person like Kandala. She told me that in the first session of the teaching, she felt extremely uncomfortable, she said, because she knew there was a high, realized being in the audience, High Lama in the audience. Yeah, most people, they don't recognize, but she just knew that, right? Yeah. So then you see that ordinary perceptions are not always in accordance with reality, right? Yeah. Okay. So then the next step in the contemplation is to generate respect, right? Respect is very important, although it is degenerating in the West and now also in India because of modernization. But there used to be so much respect for the teachers, in education in general, right? And we know that's not really that much present anymore in modern society, but it's thanks to the teacher that you develop, right? Yeah. So, and even more so for the teacher teaching us the path all the way up to enlightenment, right? Yeah. So then we try to develop respect by remembering the kindness, And in the Lama Chöpa, for example, there's a few verses related to that, as you know. There's many, and at Lam-Rim you can find also. So first of all, you think that the teacher is actually kinder than the Buddhas. Yeah, that's also in one verse in the Lama Chöpa, there where it says, those who have not been subdued, but actually it refers to yourself, not be subdued by all the previous Buddhas. So previous Buddhas, we never saw them as special beings, so that's why they never could subdue us, right? They wanted to subdue us, but we were not ready. We didn't see them as special beings, so that's why we missed out, you know. So then the current teacher, or teachers you have, they actually help us to subdue the mind, right? So that means that in one way, they're kinder because they take the ordinary aspect to teach us, so they're kinder than all the Buddhas of the past. Because of the Buddhas of the past, they tried, but we were not seeing them as special, and that's why we didn't really connect, and that's why we're still stuck in samsara. So that's one aspect, and that's the next verse in the Lama Chöpa after that also says that even kinder than Buddha Sakyamuni, because out of compassion, then the teacher takes an ordinary aspect, and yeah, Buddha Sakyamuni also we didn't really connect with directly. So now, out of the kindness showing ordinary aspect, at least we make a connection, and we practice correctly. Then in the future, we will meet actual Buddhas, right? So that's kind of what we already talked about. Yeah. So that means the kindness is greater than the Buddha, or the kindness is greater than Sakyamuni Buddha, right? Yeah. So that's kind of one aspect. The other aspect is to think about the kindness of teaching, right? And transmissions and things like that. It's really true, you know, just so kind. That although sometimes we're very thick, and they give us advice, but at that time we might not really understand. But they already see and already prepare, you know. So that's kind of so kind to teach and give advice, right? Yeah, that's very, very helpful, because otherwise we completely lost, you know. Yeah. And then by depending on the teachings, we able to eliminate afflictions, right? That's very true. So without looking at my own life, before I was 23 and met the Dharma, you just don't have a clue. You just think, oh, this is the cause for happiness, and then you just engage in that. But it's completely ignorant, you know. So then, thanks to the kindness of the teachings, and particularly the teacher, then we start to understand the mind. We start to understand the afflictions, and we start to understand how to progress on the spiritual path, you know. So yeah, that's the kindness of teachings and transmissions. And Ari Nagarjuna said, which is quoted in Pabonka Rinpoche's Lam-Rim, that Ari Nagarjuna said, you know, if you have a boulder that runs down the mountain, you don't have to do anything; it just rolls down. In a similar way, Ari Nagarjuna said, if you even if you don't wish for the boulder to run down the mountain, it will run down the mountain, right? So in a similar way, Ari Nagarjuna says, if you receive transmissions from the teacher, then even though you don't want to be enlightened, but still it creates a cause for enlightenment. Yeah. So that's really true, you know. So the kindness of teaching and giving advice, and it's very true, you know, that we're so fortunate, you know. If you just think and you just walk here and you go to Lavar, you meet quite a few Buddhists, I think, in Lavar. But yeah, you go to Toulouse, and then maybe you see that Nalanda, everything here is nice, and we have teachings and contemplations and thinking about things, you know. But you just have to go a little bit outside, and it's nothing, you know. So then, then you see how fortunate you are. And then having received teachings and having contemplating upon those teachings, even though you're born in lower realms, still you have received, and still you that one day comes to fruition, right? So then you go into higher realms, you know. So that's the kindness of the teachings and the teacher in particular, to be able to understand our minds, to understand the afflictions, to transform our minds, and then all the way up to enlightenment, right? So enlightenment itself, you know, is very much depending on the teacher, right? There's no enlightenment without. It's very clear, because without a teacher you cannot receive teachings, and eventually, you have to engage in high Showa Tantra in order to achieve enlightenment. It also depends on the teacher. So enlightenment is not possible without a teacher, right? That's very clear. There's a the second aspect to contemplate. The third one is that bestowing blessings, you know, and that depends on the first 4 points. The stronger your faith is, the stronger the blessings. Yeah, so that's true with relics, it's true with holy objects, it's true with holy sites on pilgrimages, if you go, but it's also true with the teacher. I mentioned His Holiness Dalai Lama. If you see His Holiness Dalai Lama as a normal Tibetan, that's it. If you see His Holiness Dalai Lama as a fully ordained, then you receive the blessing of a fully ordained. If you see His Holiness Dalai Lama as a bodhisattva, you receive the blessing of a bodhisattva. If you see His Holiness Dalai Lama as a fully enlightened Buddha, you receive the blessing of a Buddha, right? That's exactly what it is, you know. So from their side, there is a kind of quality of the mind, but from our side, if we not really see that and don't have the faith, and that's why the faith is so important, then the blessings don't come, right? It's what Sakya Pandita says is like this magnifying glass, you know, that the blessings of the Buddha are there, but if you have the blessings of the Buddha through the teacher, then is this kind of magnifying glass. You know, the sun rays are there, but you can burn paper with a magnifying glass, right? So that means that through the power of the teacher, the blessings can come and move the mind, you know. Or sometimes the Buddhas, they use a teacher to descend in the body of the teacher in order to bestow blessings, or you know, also those things. Because they try whatever is possible to help us, you know. Yeah, that is kind of the kindness to the blessings, and the stronger your faith is, the stronger your respect is, and the stronger your prayers are, the more blessings there is, and that's what is maturing the mind and transform. You know, if you just do Lam-Rim retreat and you just don't do these aspects of the visualizations and just read and contemplate, yes, of course, there's movement of the mind, but if you combine it with strong requests that you need to get the realizations, and then can happen, you know, the blessings. It's very true that, you know, this Kagyu Lama Kashin Drupa, His Holiness Dalai Lama often tells a story, you know. When he was young, he was a bit, not really correct attitude maybe. So when the teacher told him to prostrate, and then he did, and then the teacher went in the other room to do his prayers, and then as a young boy he just thought, I'm tired of prostrating. I just do my fist on the wooden kaza, you know, prostration board, and then my teacher will think I'm prostrating. And tung, tung, and then tung, and then his teacher told, oh, he's still prostrating, right? And then later on, when his teacher passed away and he was in retreat, then he remembered the kindness, you know? And then he was very emotional, and then because of that strong faith, then he realized the nature of the mind, you know. So that's very true. If you see all the Mahamudra and Dzogchen teachings, you know, it only happens by this blessing, you know, of the Guru. So that's also for the Lam-Rim very true, you know, that if that blessing is there, then the mind really moves in a particular direction, you know. That's So then the blessings come. So there's also kindness, right? Yeah. Because they pray constantly for us, although we might not know that. They constantly pray for us. They protect us. Do all kind of practices to hook us. From our own teachers told me the same thing. It's very inspiring. Before they teach or go to a place to teach or things like that. Sometimes they do practices. Why? To hook the right people. And that's exactly what the teachers have done to us since the beginner's lifetime. They try to hook us all the time, even when we're not human, right? In the stories of Lam-Rim and things like that. Let mosquitoes bite and then make prayer. That's to their kindness, basically. We became human, and then they teach us in other future states of existence. And then we progress, So that's certain texts they talk about that in the Pachin, the Kasa, the Abhisamalankara, also there talks about that all the virtue arises from the holy mind of the Buddhas, then to their blessings, and then the teachers also they hook us in order to make a connection and stay connected and develop the mind, and then that's the third one, and then the fourth one is that some teachers also help in a financial way. So even we see that in monastic institutions, that the mentor or the teacher helps the student, right? When things are a bit more difficult, they just help the best way they can, so there's a few points to contemplate. The kindness of the teacher in order to generate respect. The more kindness you remember, the more respect you generate, and then combined with faith, then the blessings come quicker. So let's do a meditation on that aspect, right? To remember the kindness, and then you can think about those great beings like His Holiness Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Most of you have a connection with, or your other teachers that they, thanks to their teachings, you develop your mind. Thanks to their incredible activities, since they became a Buddha, they constantly worked for the benefit of Dharma and beings. That's very clear. So that's exactly why we meet those beings, because they've hooked us before, So that's incredibly kind. Thanks to that, we came out of the lower realms, and thanks to that, we were born human, and now made a connection again, Otherwise, it's true. If you contemplate the lower realms later on, then it's almost impossible to get out. Only meeting a holy object or a holy being. Otherwise, forget it, So then you really think that once in the past we were of those creatures, and then we met this holy being and blew some mantras on us or hooked us and made a prayer. In the future, may I help this continuity of consciousness, and that's why we're here. That's why we met these kind of holy beings. So may you can think about those lines. So before we do that, first we do the counting of the breath in order to develop concentration. And then we do the visualization, and then we do the contemplation on the points we just discussed. So let's first do the counting of the breath to generate some concentration of the mind. And make sure you have the two mental factors, alertness and mindfulness, to make sure you're concentrating and not doing anything else. So let's do that for about a minute or two. So when the mind is settled down a bit, then imagine in front. Just not imagine, know that Buddha is there, right? In front is Sakyamuni Buddha. In the aspect of Sakyamuni Buddha, but actually the nature of one teacher, you could think. So imagine the Buddha there, and the throne, and the lotus. On top of that is the Buddha seated, as we discussed before, the right hand on the right knee, and the left holds a begging bowl filled with nectar in his lap, right? And it's a three-dimensional image made out of brilliant light. So I think that, at least if you can't visualize that clearly, I think that actually is there, that the Guru Buddha is there just in front of us, And then surrounding yourself, imagine the beings of the different realms, or you can think about humans, animals, if you like. But there's also gods and spirits and all beings, and they're just wandering around constantly, like a little fly going here and there constantly. They just go exactly the same way. Because of ignorance, so they constantly create causes for suffering. And then look upon that and think, I really have to do something about this. And the best way to do that is to go on the swift path. And for that purpose, I need to have correct Guru devotion, So, based on that compassion, make requests to Guru Buddha in front to bestow blessings and inspirations. And then from the heart of Guru Buddha comes white light to the crown of all beings, including yourself, into the purification and pacification of obstacles. In particular, the obstacle of Guru devotion to be eliminated. So do that visualization of the white light for about half a minute or a minute or so. Then think you're completely filled with this white nectar light and completely purified, and obstacles are pacified. And then again, looking at sentient beings' sufferings, and think you really have to progress in the Lam-Rim quick, and the way to do that is to have correct reliance. So based on that, make request to Guru Buddha in front. And then from the Buddha's heart, this time comes this yellow. They're all colors, 5 colors of light, but mainly yellow in aspect, to your crown and all beings. This bestows the potentials for the realization to come about, particular Guru devotion. So do that visualization for about half a minute. then think you're completely filled with this yellow nectar light, right? And the mind is completely ready to get the insights into good devotion, you know. And then we do the actual analytical meditation. So first, contemplate that, the Guru is kinder than the Buddhas, because all the Buddhas of the past, they couldn't really subdue us from our side, because we didn't have interest or no devotion or just not interested, you know. So that's why we missed out, you know. But our teacher is so kind, show an ordinary aspect we can relate to, and is teaching us, you know. So see that actually the teacher is kinder than all the Buddhas of the past, you know. Yeah, so analyze that for yourself. About a minute or so, a minute or two. In a similar way that the Guru is kinder than Sakyamuni Buddha, in the sense that we, at that time also, we didn't really connect, you know, because of our karma, or we might have lacked devotion or interest, you know, or just no karma, so we didn't meet, you know. But now, our teacher is so kind that we can meet, although an ordinary aspect, but we can meet, you know, so think about that also for about a minute or so. And on top of that, they teach, right? Thanks to receiving the teachings and advice and instructions, how to contemplate, how to meditate, how to develop the mind. That's how we develop the mind, right? Before we met the Buddha Dharma, we were completely confused about what actually is the cause for happiness and what is the cause for suffering. We just didn't know, you see. So it's thanks to the kindness of the teacher that we get introduced to that aspect and know how to progress further, all the way up to enlightenment, right? By depending on the Lam-Rim, you see. So think about the kindness of having received teachings, you know. To analyze that also for about a minute or so. And then also think that they make prayers for us. They even engage in activities to hook us in future states of existence and this life. They've hooked us, So they pray for us and dedicate for us also. If we generate faith, then there's a blessing to be received, and that will mature your mind. That will be able to make your mind softer and develop into the Lam-Rim, right? Yeah. So there's also kindness of the blessing to be received, and by that, transform your mind. So yeah, look at that as well for about a minute. Yeah. Yeah, so then those first 3 points are maybe the most important ones, right? So then come to a conclusion here that sees that thanks to their kindness we develop, right? All the way up to enlightenment. Can you imagine? Thanks to their kindness that we receive these teachings and instructions. And there's bestowing of blessings, right? So that combination is very fortunate, and that combination, we really should remember that the teacher in that way is extremely kind, So come to that conclusion, and then focus on that conclusion for about half a minute. Yeah, so then we can stop and relax for a minute. So Jin Lap, a blessing. Jin means actually something magnificent, and Lap means transformation, right? So you transform your mind in something magnificent, right? That's the meaning of bestowing or receiving a blessing, and that's even more the case, especially in the Vajrayana traditions, right? But also in the Lam-Rim, there's many stories of even Lama Tsongkhapa, to realize emptiness came also the blessing, right? Yeah, to see the Guru as one with Manjushri, and then receive so many blessings like that, and then realize emptiness, you see? So, and then eventually there will be, when you get a mind that is pure, then you get these pure visions, right? You see deities or aspects with our deities, right? So then you actually receive the blessings themselves eventually, right? So to train in that, in pure appearance, then if you see and you think about the kindness and you see the teacher as Buddha, then then these blessings come quicker, right? Yeah, so that's kind of a way to train your mind until you have pure visions. Then, because if you think how the Buddha sees the world and how we see the world, is completely different, right? That from the Vajrayana, if those who practice Vajrayana, you get a little bit idea of what pure appearance means, you know. Or you talk with holy beings, and yeah, sometimes in private, the conversations are very interesting, you know, very inspiring, you know. So with Kandala, same thing. When she came from in Tibet, when she was very weak, you know, almost dying, and so then she saw this person, she said, in the sadhu aspect, you know, of India. But actually, she said, in my mind, she said it was, I thought it was an emanation of Jigme Lingpa, you know, one of the great masters of Nyingma past. And then she received transmission, you know. So for us ordinary beings, it's even difficult to receive a transmission from a physical ordinary being, you know. But then if you train yourself in that aspect, then you create causes for that to happen in the future, right? That's very clear, you know. So if it is so inspiring for me to talk with people who have these visions and talk. And Kandalaji talks about in a very childish kind of, how would I say that? Kind of, not really I saw this, I saw that, but just very childish kind of, how would I say that? In innocent way, you know. But yeah, in private, she doesn't tell these stories to everybody, I think. But it's very inspiring, because then you see what is possible with a pure mind, you know. Yeah, so that's very inspiring. So then if you train your mind in that aspect, then you create causes for that, right? Yeah, so then it's very inspiring. And you read the biographies of the many masters of the past who had these visions, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's the Jingilap aspect of receiving the blessings. And then it can happen that by the power of a blessing, or sometimes it can happen if you do a particular prayer, or things like Lama Chöpa, we're going to do, when is it, on the 30th, right? Very powerful practice. And then there can be, just because Samaya is pure and things like that, or things get purified, then sometimes it can happen that the mind just gets something of the Lam-Rim, or some about, you know, transformation, you know. So that's definitely true, and that you see in the pure visions of the great fifth Dalai Lama as well. When these combinations are all present, then things happen, you know. So that's based on faith. Without faith, then those things are quite difficult, you know. Yeah. So another way to contemplate the kindness in the instruction is, now we have done the visualization of the Buddha in front and the light rays, things like that. But you can also think, because since the morning, we have the merit field in front, remember? The Buddha, and then the lineage masters and things like that. But then you can imagine that if you do this particular meditation, that says in the oral instructions of the swift part and the easy part, that you imagine that whoever you decided already that is your teacher, they emanate. So the same amount of light comes out from the Buddha in front, in the main figure of the merit fields. And then on each light rays is a cushion. And on that cushion is your teacher in ordinary aspect. Yeah, normally we don't visualize the teacher in ordinary aspect. But when you remember the kindness, that's the way to do that. That says in the oral instructions. So you can imagine that light rays comes out, so you have to know how many teachers you have, right? And then light rays comes, and there's a cushion on the end of each light rays, and then all your teachers appear in front of yourself, you know, on these cushions, and then they have ordinary aspect, but when they have something with the eye, then the eye is then perfect, right? You don't look at pimples or things like that. You look at the pure ordinary aspect, and then you do this contemplation, and you can do the contemplation of each of them, how kind this person was because of this or because of that, and then you generate a kind of respect, because then you go to the kindness of each and every one of them. And then if you have respect, then it's much easier later on to also do the previous meditation, although normally the sequence is different. But if you have strong respect, then it's easier to do the meditation. They are Buddhas, right? Yeah. So then they're just in the ordinary aspect, but they are Buddhas like that, because you come closer, right? When you have respect to the teacher, then there's a close feeling to them, you know. And because of that, then it's easier to do the previous meditation as well. So it's always one is enhancing the other, right? In the meditations on the Lam-Rim. Yeah. So yeah, let's do that, you know, just as a practice to see, and again later you can do that for yourself when you do your retreats yourself, right? Because this, what we do here, one aspect is of course to get some experience, but the other aspect is to know how to do retreat yourself, because eventually you have to do yourself, right? I'm not really a person who is fond of guided meditations, because we know that just listening again and again is just the wisdom from hearing, right? And we have to generate the wisdom from contemplation and the wisdom from meditation. So eventually you have to do without a guided meditation, sit down yourself and contemplate. Yeah, because otherwise it's not a very stable. Of course, by hearing you get an idea and your mind might move a little bit, but eventually you have to do it yourself, you know. So that's why that's important. After we did this now already 3 years, then next year we have a break. So then you can do yourself, right? That's also an idea, to give the team a break, but also for yourself to be able to do a short retreat, if it's a week or 10 days or 2 weeks or a month. Yeah, try to do the things and try to structure, and then that eventually has to be produced, right? You have to do without guided meditation, you know. Yeah, because you have to because guided meditation is the wisdom from hearing, but you have to progress to the wisdom from contemplation and the wisdom from meditation, right? Yeah. So yeah, in the West there's a lot of emphasis on guided meditation, but yeah, in one way for beginners it can be helpful, but eventually it becomes a lazy aspect, right? That you just listen, but you have to think yourself and produce the insights. And that's, we know exactly for those who've studied mind and cognition, we have to produce inference. Yeah, because most of our meditations on the Lam-Rim are correct assumptions, right? So in order to produce inference, you need reasoning. You have to put forward yourself to come to a conclusion, and then you get this incontrovertible knower, right? So that's very needed, you know. Otherwise, it remains still artificial, and it doesn't really produce a stable imprint in the mind, you know. So that's why it's very important. Yeah. Okay, so let's give that a try. That the next, we do the same contemplation, but now in relation to the teachers we have. Yeah, so I don't know, you might have a few teachers and try to recall them. So think in front of yourself. There's this mirrored field, yeah, as we described at this beginning of this morning. And then imagine that from the heart of the center figure, which is the Buddha, come light rays in the same amount of you have teachers. And then on the end of each light rays in front of yourself, in the space in front of yourself, are your teachers sitting in ordinary aspect, but perfect, right? On those cushions. And then, first try to visualize that for yourself, or imagine they are all there, right? And then you contemplate the kindness, right? So think that they're actually kinder than the Buddha, because we missed out, and the Buddhas of the past, because we will not be able to subdue our minds during those times, And they show this ordinary aspect, which I can relate to, and they teach us and give us advice and instructions. It's incredibly kind to be able to have that connection, right? Yeah, so analyze that for yourself for about a minute or so. And then think how kind they are to that we able to connect with them in ordinary aspect, but also that they teach us and bestow blessings if we open to that, right? So that transforms our mind. That helps us to understand our mind, helps us to eliminate afflictions, that helps us to get a realization of the Lam-Rim. It's all thanks to their kindness, right? Yeah, so analyze this also for about a minute or two. And I come to a conclusion, right, that sees that thanks to them, you're able to transform your mind. Thanks to them, you're able to get a realization of Lam-Rim, right? So they're extremely kind, and then focus on that conclusion for about half a minute. And then, to conclude, then imagine they all descend into you, or they bestow blessings by dissolving into you. And then the merit fields we have put this morning. Imagine that the lineage of method and wisdom, they all dissolve into Maitreya and Manjushri, and those two dissolve into the Buddha in the center. And then in the back, the masters of the three deities and 16 drops and Mahamudra, they also dissolve into Sakyamuni in the center figure. And then the deities in front, your teachers in front of the Buddha, they also dissolve into Sakyamuni Buddha, So there's only Sakyamuni Buddha left. And then Sakyamuni Buddha comes to the crown of your head, facing the same direction as you're facing. And then the throne dissolves into lotus. And then the Buddha becomes smaller. And then Guru Buddha descends. Your crown, throat. And then at the level of your heart, imagine Guru Buddha's mind merge with your own mind, right? So then you can feel a little bit of, happy feeling there or blissful feeling there. And then the Buddha bestows the blessing, or Guru Buddha bestows the blessing, so things like that. Okay, so you stop. So that technique can be quite helpful because if you see your teachers normally in ordinary aspect, then you can remember their kindness better, Yeah. So that's kind of a good way to do that if you like. Yeah. Okay. So then I was planning to do a little bit of transmission for a few minutes. Yeah. So I'm very traditional, and my own teachers also told me to do with transmission. So that's why I do that. And if you like to take, you can take, otherwise you can just listen, right? So first, the transmission, most of you received already during the BP, but it's good to receive again and again, and those who didn't, they can receive the Mati Sabje, the precious master instruction, right? That carries, there's different types of transmissions, right? There's the mere lung, the oral, or to say the reading transmission, right? And there's the reading transmission with explanation, and there's kind of a transmission you can receive. And then also there are transmissions which carries the experiential lineage, So this particular text, the outline of the swift and easy parts, that carries the experiential transmission as well. And there's two types of experiential. One is that the teacher teaches from his own experience, so I don't have any experience. But this text carries that lineage. I received from Lama Rinpoche. And also it carries the lineage of the, how to say that in English, an experiential aspect that that the student gets a particular instruction and the student meditates on that, and then until the signs, and then when the signs are there, the next part has been explained. So that also is included in this text. So just read until we, because I use this as the outline also, So you can just listen, Janju langi rimba mati de nyugi tone namti. Katsagi sabje jezen lama shilong shidawa shuso. Jezen lama meba tuji chenbo denba. Shabla guba chenbo chasa jin kyausu jiu. Tsewa chenbo druga nega tamje tanje gi jesu sundu so. Janju lamgi rimba triwala shi. So that initially explains the four outlines of the Lam-Rim, of the greatness of the author, right, and Jojatisha, and then the greatness of the Lam-Rim instruction, and then by depending on those two, how to listen and to teach, and then how to be led or guided into the Lam-Rim. So if I explain, then also you receive that transmission. Janju langi rimba tiwala shi jugun tsumba tenpa ji suba jewa. Dang guba gewe ji chugi jewa jewa ni dengi jula nen she jita jawa zul dang ngi lo ma jita jiba rinbao tang bola sum rinba pinzun soba gewa shewe zul ten de la yun de nyeba zul ne ne tenba jawa zeba zul de la ni kya ga de zeba zul be de jeba zul ni pa dang de guba gewe ji jewa de malashi Tenpa tamje gi me de toba che wa sun ra ma lu dang de charwe che wa gyawa gomba de la de ne wa che wa ne che chenpo rang ga zu toba che wa sun ba che dengi che nian je ji da ja wa zu la sun ne che nie be zu je be zu ju de du monde ji da ja wa zu Java Rimbo, Dambo La Sum, Je Jebe Ben Yun Samba, Je Dan Je Mawa Rimbo, Juba Giba, Ne Zung So De La Ni, Ge Gen Yu Gi Gun Sum Bang Wan Dang, Dun Gen Du Je Zhu Dambo, Ni Ba Je Jebe Zi La Xi, Je Jebe Ben Yun Samba, Je Dan Je La Rimba, Zhu Ge Wa Samba Dan Jurbe Jita, Bu Sheba Yu, Kan La Sheba Dan Mi Sheba, Gebaro. Sumba ju de tu mon de jija wa rimba ge ba zo ba jiang ju de ngo ji ba da ba ngu gi lo ma jita ti wa rimba la ni lang ge za wa ge wa ten ba zul dang ten na lo jita jung wa rimba dang bo la ni tun gi ngo jita ja wa dang tun sam gi jita ja wa zulo dang bo la sum jor wa ju dang ngu ji jita ja wa dang Zu ba ji da jawa rimbo tang bo la jorwa chuk ngi ba ngi je la shi she nin tem je ne tem pe pen yo ma ne ba ma tem ba ne zu log ba ne mi sang ba tem ba zu jorwa de tem ba zu lo tang bo je ne tem pe pen yo la ge sang ye go ba ne wa la nye wa ge wa ni gi ge wa yu wa du dang du do gi mi ju ba nyu mon dan ne je tam je ran ju gi ga ba sa lam nam do tam je gi gong bel de jo ba se ra tam je du je wa je ne gi mi bo nge zun de mi dong wa ne ga dang ta tu gi du tam je de pen me de du bo ma ten ba ni mi ge de la do bo ne ten zo lo ba ni mi ge ni lama lama la ne gu jun ba na ye wa yun de ne ba lama la du zhen du ne de ji ma tan da nyang ba ge wa zun zun ne ge wa nyang wa ge wa nga la ten ne jo mi du ba gu dun de zun ba du gyang ne wa su ge du ba dan da wa yun de nga ma ge wa nang ge sa de mi ge jin ge jin ba na nyang ba se di ne zo gi mi do ba ze ba ji ma nge zun de da de mi ba gyang ba ze ra tam jen de ge wa xin ne gi bong ba sung ba zang ba ten ze la ni za wa de ba jiang wa dang ga den je ze den ba gu ba ge ba dang bo la sum la ma sang ye zhu da zhen ge ba gyum ze da wa nu ba gyum ze zhe ji da wa zhu de la xi la ma sang ye yin ba do ji jiang gi xie ba la ma Zangye tamche gi tin le jeba yenba de zangye du su yang Zangye dan janjo zemgi semba chengi dun du zebao rangi nangwa la ngeba meba niba katen jeze denba gyuba geba la shi lama sangye lakba gaten je sumba katen je she gyu jenge laba gaten zanzengi kodu duba Kateno, she ba jorba tenza la sum, neba sanzengi neba godi jebadam, kashin de duba ho. So that concludes that part of good devotion. So tomorrow, the pressure movie bird. Oh, wrong way around. Oh, maybe wait. I thought maybe also a few pages of this one. So yeah, last year we did the Gaza. Pension Loss and Chugi Gelson's Swift part. So this year I thought to do something from Gaza, the third Dalai Lama, his commentary on Lama Tsongkhapa's Lines of Experience, right? It's called in English we say the kasa, essence of refined gold. Yeah. So that's received from Soren Dalai Lama. Yeah, all the 18 Lam-Rims. Jiangju Lamgi Rimba Ti Se Ge Yang Shi Jawa Shu So Jie Zhen Lama Dang Gab Zun De Guba Dang Dani Jianbo Kang De Deva Shabla Guba Jianbo Jiaza Jing Gya Zu Jiu Jing Ge La De Zu De La De Ge Na Jiu De Ningbo Lembo Duba Ge Bo Nam Ge Nyang Zi Lemba Jawa Ni Gya Wa Sungra Tan Je Gi Ningbo Du Zong Baba Tan Je Gi Zhuwa Ji De Lam Sheng Da Jianbo Lu Ru Dang Do Me Ni Ge Lang Ge Zhuwa Namba Tan Je Genba Sa Zhu Ge Wa Zhou Ge Lu Zhe Lu Ge Wo Song Ge Ji Nyang Zi Lang Ba Rin Ba Tan Je Ge Zang Wa Me Ba Du Ba Jian Zhu Lang Ge Rin Ba Xie Jia Wa Ni Yan La De La Do Ma Nyang Zi Lang Wa Jia Wa Zhu Gong Ge Ba De Ba Ba Xin De Ji Ba Le Gong Zhu Zhu Ba Ni Ba Ne Zhu Ma Zhen De Yang Ge Zhou Gre Ba Ma Yin Ba Lam Ge La Yong Zi Zhou Ba Jia Zang Ge Ma Nu Ge Jie Wa Jie Wa Yin La De Re Ge Da Ge Nyang Zi Lang Ba La Lang Ge Rin Ba De Ni Yang Da Ba Zhou Ba Sang Ge Ne Zhu Bu Ba O La Lu Do Do Me Ni Ge Rin Ba Xin De Ge Wa Na Gong De Jue Ba Yin Xing Gong Zhen De La La Le Ge Ge Jue Ba Rin Ba De Ge Ge Bo Ni Ge De Yun Ma Le Ba De La De Gong Ba Ni Rin Bo Jie Wang Ge Ge Bo Da Bo Dang De Ba Jian Bo Tsu Gi Xiong Lu Zang Bo Ma Le Ba Le Xie Gi Ju Wa Du Ba Ne Gya Zo Jian Bo Da Bo Dang Do nga gi ni de ju ba tun ba la ju ba yong zu zo ba dang san du wa rin ba zo wa je ba nyang ze len ba je ba dang lu du gi gong ba ga ba re gi gong de je ba to me gi lu la ge ba se ling ba dang ma gi ge ba yin ba de ta bu la ne gong sung gi du ba ji ni ma da ge wa gen sang la ran re la ma sung ba gi ba gyang zam bo zam ling ge ba yong zu zu gen gi nyen ba da gi de re me lu du to me ni gi le rim jun de la ge ba jan ji gi rim ba da gu ge ba du ma lu gyong ba ne na da ma rim ba je wang gi ge wo de shun sang gi dun gi ju ji ba da ba de la ba gi je ba ya zu ji shi sung de ne dang de jin de ge ba pa rin je ba ge ma den ba yin de dang de la de ne ge wa sun ra ji da dang je ji de lang ge zu ge ji lang ge yan la tun je ge ji ne yong dang gu ba ji rik ba go ne gang za nian ni ge da wo zang ge je ba ne gong de je ba dang je ge wa me de do ba je ba do nga ge sun ra ge de gong de ge den je Tse ma dangi gunangi jiba juna nyang zi lang ba rinpa nimbo nyang lak de nangi le jina yuba zinba lu do nam la ma me ba lo ne gi sung ra gong del dan chebe zi je da da gi jina gi tel zi la shi la gi par lang gi rinpa du ne de da den ba ji dem de sung de juba dun gi juba de gong de gom zo gong ge ba la zo gong je ba nyang ze len be jun ba da nga gi gyo ba gyu na sung rap tang je gi da nga de je wa de tar sung ra gong de dan je ba sung je wa nang gi da nga jo gi ni ba je gya je wa sung ra gi dun de ma jang wa kang za le tang bo wa nam gi da ba me na la teng ge shun je wa de da ga gi dun gi de sam shun yang gong dun de ji da jin de mi nian me ne jiang du gun de ju ge jie jin de jie wa to gu lama dang ba me na la zhu wa ni jiang ju lang ge rin ba da bo la de ne shun chen bo nam gi dun jie wa ni ji ge ne wa na gia wa gong ba de la de ne wa jie wa ni gi jie wa sang ye gi ga dang jie gi ngue dang gu ba dang go ne sang ba da tam xin de dong ba go wa ga xin zang wa sang ye da gi dong ba sung wa ni ge wa ne ga xin zang ye wa ge zu zung ne do jie de jie ba na je bang gi le yin wa dang ba dang de la de ne nga je ba tar dang je gi ge me de to ba ne ba cham gi de ta bu je bang gi ne je dang je ra ga zu je wa nang gi de ba je de ta sung ra gi de la je ba dang den ba Demba duba na gi ne geba gene denje tu nyangze jeba danga cho de gyue gebo sumgi langi rimba de la yang rang wa meba ro de ne sam gomba la juba rik de da de ni gi gonde sheba tar cheba she dan dembo je lama kyang Tenpa tam je gi me de toba dang sun ra ma lu ba dang ba char ba dang kye wa gong ba de la de nye ba dang ne je chenpo yang sa le kyang sung de je gi bu gi ge ba ni ge al de ni je ge ba dang ba jo ge ba sum gi lang gi rin ba yi yi ra mi de mi jo yi ya mi jo wa yeah, okay, so there's only 3 pages or so a day. I think that. Okay, thank you so much. So then we do a few dedications. Yeah. Yeah, so maybe the Lam-Rim dedication prayer on page 96. Yeah. From my 2 collections, vast the space that I've amassed from working with this effort of this practice for a great length of time. May I become a chief leading Buddha for all those whose wisdom mind is blind by ignorance. Even having not reached this state, may I be held in love and compassion for all my life's Manjushri. May I find the best complete graduate parts of the teachings, and may I please Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means, drawn with the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness of the minds of all beings, with the points of the paths that I have discerned them. May I behold the Buddhist teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish liberation be granted boundless peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time, by even this graduated path enlightened complete, due to Buddhas and their sons. May all humans and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conditions for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone may ever to act in accordance with virtuous practices, may always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may an ocean of prosperity spread everywhere. Then we go to page 80. Dagi jine sabe gewa di tendan rowa gundan gambe geba jezen lozan draba yi tingbe ningbo ringlu sa je sho ganre rawe korbe zinga pendan deva malu jumbe jenre zegwan tenzing yazo yi jabe jite badu dengyu ji du den jin dan jiang yun yao den zing gyong pe la ra zhu ra zhu ba zum de nyu mi zhen ba jun yi jin den den de nu jun sho ne jun samba rimbo je magye pana gyu
Jebai nyamba meba yang gone gonde belwa sho janjo semjo rimbo je magye panange yu. Jebai nyamba meba yang gone gonde belwa sho toni tawa rimbo je magye panange yu chi. Jebai nyamba meba yang gone gonde belwa sho. As long as praise remains, as long as my greatest remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the suffering my greatest. May the King of Dharma, Tsukama's way of Dharma practice flourish, and may the omens as obstacles be pacified, and all conducive circumstances be complete. Through the power of having made single-pointed requests to you, Lord Samdrapa, may all unfortunate manifestations of degenerated age, illness, famine, quarreling, epidemic diseases, garners, fears, and spears. May action, collection, collusion, increase. Please bless me that all my wishes be fulfilled, by evoking the power of loving kindness and compassion of Chenrezig, and through the force of making extensive prayers. May all sickness, war, fighting, famine be completely pacified, so that all beings have long, healthy, happy lives. May the glorious Guru's life be long and stable. May all beings equal space and happiness. And may I and others, without exception, accumulate merit and purify negativities, and may be blessed to quickly attain Buddhahood. Gyewa Gunda Yanda Lama Da Dame Chugi Bela Lonji Sada Langi Yunda Doje Changi Go Banyu Do Sho. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so tomorrow, those who like to take Mayan precepts, right, they can do. Yeah. And then the meditation also starts tomorrow, right? The morning meditation. Yeah. Okay, see you tomorrow. Good night.